All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick here to our preview and prediction for the Cotton Bowl going down next Friday between Ohio State and Texas, coming off big victories in their respective quarterfinal games. Ohio State 6-point favorites, 54.5 to the total, 8 p.m. on ESPN. And Nick, I just want to start this by saying, I was getting clowned by a lot of people for having faith in this Ohio State team and picking them to still win the national title after the game against Michigan. I felt like they'd blow out Tennessee, and I thought they'd blow out Oregon. I know my score originally was a little bit closer, but as the days before the game counted down, I started telling a lot of people Ohio State was going to blow them out, and they blew them out of the water quite badly. What was it, like 34-0 right there before halftime. This Ohio State team has been very impressive. Nick, what do you make of them so far through two games after a horrendous ending, losing to Michigan yet again?
Yeah, I really didn't have them winning either of these games. I thought Tennessee would beat them. I thought Oregon would beat them. I got to put my hands up. I was wrong. You were right. And at the end of the day, this Ohio State team's playing with fire that I've not seen really in this Ryan Day era at all. This team feels like a new team. They're playing with new energies. Their top wide receiver, Smith, has been playing just phenomenal football for this team. This team is just really good. They're playing great football across the board. Jeremiah Smith, that is. He's just playing phenomenal football, the true freshman. They look dialed in. Will Howard looks dialed in. This offense is firing on all cylinders. The defense has been really strong as well. The defense has been physical. They've opened up two strong leads in the first half of games against Tennessee and Oregon. They really absolutely dominated the Ducks, and the Ducks just looked absolutely wounded out there and didn't even look like they were national title contenders. This is a completely brand new look Ohio State team. They've changed it. They look strong. They look incredible. It looks like Urban Meyer's coaching this team. Ryan Day has done a phenomenal job. I have to give him credit. I am stunned that this has turned around the way it has. I never foresaw this happening. I assumed they would just lose to Tennessee or Oregon. He would probably get fired, and we'd figure out what's next from there. But Ryan Day is coaching like his job is on the line, and, credit to him. It looks like he's going to save his job. If this team wins a national championship, he saves his job. End of story. That's it. The hot seat is no longer hot, and this team is playing incredible football, and they should be the odds-on favorite to win the national title right now with the way they look.
With that said, we'll go ahead and dive into our preview with the Texas offense. This is a group that, we've been critical of at times. Against Georgia, they've looked awful. Quinn Ewers throughout the years just had incredibly sporadic play against really every single opponent. Whenever he is playing his A game, sometimes there's mistakes around him that certainly make him look worse than he is. And even today against Arizona State, it was a very poor showing for most of that contest. He had a number of underthrown balls, a lot of misfires. Also had some really good balls as well, but I think the biggest thing about him is he was elite in the clutch today, Nick. This team, they were leading the entire game. Arizona State, they were hanging around. You're like, all right, maybe they can make this a ball game. They finally made it one that was very winnable for them. And a fire lit into Quinn Ewers. This guy was on fire, Nick. Led them right down the field twice for field goals that could have won the game. Two misses there. Goes to overtime. Season's on the line. 4th and long. Fires a beautiful touchdown. Next play to start next overtime. Another touchdown followed by a 2-point conversion. This is Tom Brady level quarterback play here, Nick, that he put up in the clutch. And no, that's not a joke. That's how good he looked there at the end of that game in Atlanta.
He looked phenomenal at the end of the game, right? He really had to go out there and win this game. There's been a lot of question marks about him throughout this season. He's looked shaky at times. Arch Manning obviously breathing down his neck. A lot of people wonder what's next for Quinn Ewers at the end of this game. He had a phenomenal day against Arizona State, 322, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Where he just really played great football towards the end of the game. He was really dialed in on those last couple of drives, making big throws, making big completions. I think a very key one is when you were in overtime. They go to the start of overtime. Arizona State scores. Cam Scadaboo scores. Puts them up early. Then Texas has a nice 4-play drive to get some points. And then when you look at that final, Gunnar Helm hits him 25 yards, first play immediately, caught them lacking, touchdown, bang, there you go. Now you're up 8 after the 2-point conversion. Those are the type of things that you see. Confidence in your tight end, confidence in your key players, and Ewers has looked really good. He's having a phenomenal season still, despite the injury, despite some of the setbacks and some of the criticism. Prior to today, 2,800 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, all great numbers. I'm expecting him to transfer at the end of the season, most likely. Going to go somewhere and be great there. He's in a good position here, still a capable leader to lead this team.
You look at some of his weapons. Isaiah Bond returned, was very quiet. He's kind of been quiet most of the year, but he's still a guy who can hurt you with speed and plays downfield. Matthew Golden has emerged tremendously. The transfer from Houston. This guy's approaching 1,000 yards on the year. Has 9 touchdowns, 7 grabs for 149. He was the go-to guy on that 4th down. There's another 4th down earlier on in the game. They threw it to him as well. He's the top target for this team. He's a phenomenal playmaker, especially in the red zone. Alluded to that 25-yard score from Gunnar Helm at tight end. He's also going to be a great target. I mean, he leads the team in receptions with 58 of them. Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore had a touchdown early. Wingo was nice, athletic ability. Was a little bit better against Clemson, and he's been nice this back half of the year, kind of quiet in this quarterfinal game. This is still a tremendous supporting cast for Ewers, though, Nick, and these two guys at the top really bailed him out. And, with time, the other ones are going to make plays throughout the game. That will be the case against Ohio State, who's been playing some very tough coverage throughout this playoff.
This is an offense that's really got some good weapons here. Golden's been really good for this team. 780 plus yards, 8 plus touchdowns for this team. Gunnar Helm's been phenomenal. About 700 yards receiving, 7 plus touchdowns. He's been really good. Isaiah Bond, battling health, but still a great player for this team. Wingo and DeAndre Moore, 400 plus for each of them. Multiple touchdowns for the two of those receivers as well. I've been happy with this wide receiving core. This is a very good unit playing good football.
Yeah, and you look at the run game, I think the most shocking thing is what they didn't really do today against Clemson. They dominated a far better D-line. 292 and 4 touchdowns in the first round. That's highly impressive. A much better matchup here against ASU, and they did nothing. 53 yards on 30 carries. The longest run of 7 yards by Contravion Wisner. I mean, this was abysmal, Nick, and if you can't do it against ASU, why would you be able to do it against Ohio State? Right tackle, you want to monitor will Trevor Gooseby be playing or will Cam Williams be in there? I know that, it was a bit of a loss. That's a good starter for them over that right side, but Kelvin Banks was playing. And this is not an excuse, Nick, for being poor at running the football because everyone else is still there. Guys like DJ Campbell, who made some mistakes, Jake Majors, Hayden Connor. The entire offensive line is pretty much intact, and they did nothing in the pass rush for Arizona State. It was really a lot of blitzes, but their D-line also made things work from time to time. This is a pretty embarrassing showing from this offensive front in the run game.
Yeah, this is poor on the ground, right? This is just not a good day on the ground. 53 yards on 30 carries is not a good enough number. Just weak across the board. Wisner really didn't have a great day. 18 carries for 45 yards. Just not good enough. The offensive line certainly has some issues, and we'll obviously discuss that in a second here. They're battling some injuries. Calvin Banks, certainly want to keep an eye on his status as we approach this game on January 10th. I think this offense needs to find a way to run the ball better here. They've been banged up all year, so certainly can give them a pass. But Wisner, he's got about 1,000 yards on the season, 5 touchdowns. He needs to have a really good day here against Ohio State. He's got to find a way to run the ball successfully. They've struggled to do that. And if they don't run the ball very well here, it could be a very long day for the Texas Longhorns.
4 carries, 4 yards for Jaden Blue, and he had a grab for 11 after having a monster showing against Clemson. So you got to find ways to get those backs involved once again. Moving to the Ohio State offense, and again against Michigan, they were just abysmal. They got overwhelmed by that great defensive line. Couldn't really find much throwing the ball. They seemed too conservative at times. Chip Kelly went back to the drawing board and he said, we're going to be aggressive. And I think that's what everyone had been calling for, right? Will Howard, he certainly has refound his confidence. And, you've seen that through 2 games where they've come out guns a-blazing in the first quarters of these contests. Pretty much throwing knockout punches, Nick, in the first 15 minutes. 3-11 and 2 scores against Tennessee. 83% comp rate. He had 319 and 3 more scores here in this one. He was on fire early. Second half, they really shut down the passing attack just to get out of Pasadena with a victory. But, looks like Oregon is going to be able to make a bit of a comeback there. They had some momentum, and they instantly went back to throwing the football. And Jeremiah Smith helped close this one out. 187 and 2 scores for him. 7 on 7 receptions. Amika Egbuka had 72 on 5 with a nice touchdown on a beautiful ball over the back end of the Ducks defense. These guys are playing incredible football, Nick. These guys have been calling their shot against man coverage. You cannot guard them. Texas, we'll talk about their defense, but their secondary hasn't been all that good in this playoff. These guys, Nick, the big reason why I thought they would do so well is because I thought they'd regain their confidence. Not only have they refound it and told themselves they're great, but they're going out there and playing like it too. Ultimate deadly combination, and that's why they're succeeding so much.
A unit that's playing with full confidence, and it starts with the quarterback up top. Will Howard had a lot of criticisms at points this year. I think he had a really good season, right? 73% comp rate, 3,100 yards plus passing, 32 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I thought that was a good enough season, but obviously they expect high things out of the quarterbacks in Ohio State. He got some flack. He had an issue at the end of the Oregon game when they first played them in Eugene, where he slid a little bit early, cost them that game. Did not look good at all against Michigan, where they were playing conservative. The bad conservative play calling really drove me nuts in the game against Michigan for Ohio State, something that really put them in a bad spot here. So they came out guns blazing these last 2 games. They came out guns blazing against Tennessee and Oregon, and it's really worked out well for them. They put up a lot of points early on. They opened up massive leads through the passing attack, and that's been really strong for them. Howard's having a good run here, and then the 2 wide receivers, Smith and Egbuka, are phenomenal. A lot of NFL GMs are sitting there saying, this Smith kid, why can't we draft him tomorrow? This guy's incredible. He still has 2 years in college, 2 great freshman wide receivers this year, and Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. Can't wait to watch the 2 of them over the next couple of seasons. Smith, 1,100 plus 1100 plus receiving yards for him, 16.5 yards per grab at least, and then 14 touchdowns on the year. He's just been phenomenal, getting a lot of targets, over 80 yards per game. Really good numbers at Buka. A forgotten player, it feels like at times, 800 plus receiving yards for him, 10 touchdowns as well. He's been playing really good football. Carnell Tate's been good for this team as well. But that's it. It's a three-man show really up top. Smith, Buka, and Tate. These guys are getting all the targets, playing really good football. Tate has 4 touchdowns and 600 plus yards as well. These are the guys. This is the show with those 4. They're getting tons of targets. They're really the key parts of this offense, and they've been playing great football thanks to it.
Yeah, G. Scott at tight end, a pretty underrated player for them as well. Had opened the game with 30-yard reception. I think he can certainly stun people at times. The run game's also refound its balance. Travion Henderson went 66 yards on a rushing touchdown. He had 2 on the day, 85 yards on 17 for Judkins. He was able to find some nice run lanes toward the boundary. They had 156 and 4 rushing on almost 5 yards per attempt against Tennessee, so they've certainly found phenomenal balance that's just been undeniable. And this offensive line, they got obliterated against Michigan, against an elite front that has a couple of first-rounders. And coming into the year, you knew this would be a struggle for Ohio State. This offensive line, they had 2 great players, 2 of the best in the country at their position, go down of injury. And at that moment, I was kind of like, man, maybe it's doubtful this team wins a national title. And then after Michigan, it totally seemed like that was going to be the reality. And they've bounced back against another group of elite fronts. Tennessee did nothing. Oregon did nothing either. 0 sacks, 3 tackles for loss only. And I think like 2 of those were on like QB runs by Howard. So this offensive line is playing with tremendous effort right now. Here's another test, though, Nick. And so far, they've passed the last 2, but it could certainly turn into a Michigan game once again against this elite Texas front, especially on the right side. I think Tegra Tajbola, he's no good at right guard. At right tackle, Josh Fryer had some issues at times in this game early on. Jordan Birch had a nice rush. He was able to create a negative play. I like what they've been able to accomplish so far over the last 2 games, but it's still going to be a week-to-week thing on how they will perform. I think I left tackle Donovan Jackson. Those really giving them a lot of juice. But again, Nick, it's not a guarantee. These guys are just going to show up and be great, but the last 2 weeks, pass pro has been phenomenal.
Good showing on the ground for this offense against Oregon. Travion Henderson, nearly 100 yards rushing. 2 scores for him. Judkins, 85 yards rushing. Good numbers there. I am concerned about the offensive line. I share your similar level of concern. I do think this is a unit that could, face a disadvantage against the Texas defensive line that's shown to put a lot of pressure. They put Sam Leavitt for Arizona State under a ton of pressure in the game in their matchup in the quarterfinals. I think this is a Texas defense that can really put you in a tough position. They can attack you over and over again and hit you in the backfield. This is an offensive line that's played good throughout most of the season. The rushing attack that's been Judkins and Henderson each have over 800 yards rushing, multiple touchdowns for the 2 of them, 10 for each, 10 for Henderson's and 10 for Judkins. So a very productive unit. They're going to want to run the ball here against Texas, control the tempo. They want to balance the attack, which they've been doing all year under Chip Kelly outside of the Michigan game. I think they can certainly do so, but the offensive line has to stay on schedule, protect the quarterback, and give running lanes because this is a very strong Texas pass rush and defensive line that can cause you headaches.
Now I move to a Texas defense. We'll start with that elite defensive line. It's been a phenomenal unit this year. One thing I've noticed is teams want to continue to try to run downhill at them on 4th down. It's happened throughout the last 4 games, and it's not going well at all. So Ohio State, I would imagine Chip Kelly's smarter than that. Again, though, Colin Simmons off the edge, he's been tremendous. Barron Sorrell, he's really improved his draft stock this year. Trey Moore as well. I mean, these are all highly productive edge rushers. Ethan Burke's been making some better plays as of late. You have an elite interior with Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton. You also have a nice rotational piece, a duo in Jermaine Loyal and Bill Norton. This team's like 9 deep up front, Nick. They're incredibly physical. Wasn't the greatest showing against Arizona State. Early on, they looked good, but as the game went on, they were controlling blocks, but they weren't firing into the backfield, making negative plays. They were pretty good in their pass rush, though. It was really hard for Sam Leavitt to, stand in a clean pocket and find someone downfield. And again, they could totally obliterate this O-line here, but I don't think they're going to be as consistently great rushing the passer in this one. And Scatterbill, I mean, this guy took a lot of body blows. He had 30 carries by himself, ended up with 140, almost 5 yards per attempt. And Leavitt made some good plays with his legs as well, so they ended up giving up 200-plus rushing in this contest. And this is an Ohio State team. They have no problem with physicality. They have 2 great backs as well. If the body blows keep on coming, maybe Texas will be the one getting wear down. They were on the field a lot in this game, Nick, and that's not ideal. How do you think this matchup will go for them against the Bucs?
They were on the field a lot, and I think that's certainly something you have to keep an eye on. But this is a defensive line that's been really good, playing strong football. Alfred Collins been phenomenal, 47 total tackles, 6 tackles lost, sack for him, 7 pass breakups. He's really good getting his hand up on the line. Colin Simmons has been really good, 39 total tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, and interception for him. He's just a big player. Baron Sorrell, 38 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. Vernon Broughton, 34 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him. Great numbers there. Jeremiah Lull, Trey Moore each have 30 total tackles. Moore, 7 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. And Ethan Burke is quietly having an okay second half to the season, 24 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception that he took for a touchdown, and 3 pass breakups. Big physical unit here that's producing solid numbers.
Middle, this defense, of course, brings a lot of speed to the table. Really like a lot of their run fits for the most part. They're, causing a lot of havoc throughout the game. I know Trey Moore had a phenomenal effort against ASU. They're going to they spied of a couple of these defensive ends, but Anthony Hill, Iona Liafau, I thought they played pretty good games. This is something they do a lot with their scheming. Will Howard's certainly a threat with his run, but I don't know if you're going to be able to spy as much as you'd like because this team has so much heat, Nick. You're going to need all bodies on deck, dropping in the coverage or rushing the passer, that is. So QB spies might be something that burns them in this game, which means there's going to be extra emphasis on these linebackers to make sure they're in right position in coverage or on their blitzes.
I think they have to be strong here. These linebackers have to have a good day. They have to be right in the right position. Hill's been a great leader for this team, nearly 100 tackles, 99 to be exact, 16 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, a pick, a pass breakup, 4 first fumbles. Gabenda's been really good as well, 56 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, a sack for him, while Liana Lafau has been solid as well, 51 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups. They're going to be tested here. The middle of the defense is certainly going to be tested. Can this unit stand up to the task? I think it's possible, but it's certainly a tough battle they find themselves in.
You look at a Texas secondary that all year long has been phenomenal. Numbers are probably a little skewed because they've played some pretty weak attacks. The last 2 weeks, though, the last 2 games, that is now, it's been a completely different story. Klubnik put on a great show for Clemson with 336 on 3 scores. And then Arizona State, they ended up with 296 yards passing and a score from Scadaboo. They're also able to snag a pick off Levitt. This is back-to-back games, pretty much a 300 yards allowed passing. Could have been a lot more for Levitt because there was guys downfield often, but the pass rush was just so hectic that they were not able to find him. And I promise Ohio State's going to be better at pass protection, at least more consistent, you'd think. So if the D-line can't do the heavy lifting, Nick, maybe the secondary really does start to get exposed. I think they have great players, though, at the end of the day. Jedi Barron is a phenomenal player, not just in coverage, but against the run, and his ability to blitz today was very impressive. Malik Muhammad made some good plays, but he was getting abused against Clemson, against some talented pass catchers. That's going to be tough drawing against Jeremiah Smith. Michael Taft is a great player in the back end with a good football IQ. He had 2 pass breakups. Andrew McCumba, a little bit quieter today, but he's still a good hard hitter who can make plays against the run. Has been sound in coverage throughout the year. And then Jelani McDonald is out there a good bit, playing more than we've typically seen from him. What do you think of the secondary, Nick? Do you think that the numbers really are skewed because of the weak opponents they played, or it's just been teams playing from behind, and that's why they've been able to rattle off some numbers?
Yeah, the numbers are a little bit skewed, but I still think this is a great secondary unit. Jai Barron, All-American, who's playing great football, 50 total tackles for him, 2 pass breakups, 5 picks, 11 pass breakups, 2 tackles for losses, 11 pass breakups, 5 picks. Great numbers there, a physical player. Andrew McCumba, the transfer that came over from Clemson, he had a good rebound season from 55 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 4 picks, and 7 pass breakups, including 5 interceptions, including the game-saving interception in overtime that won them the game. He looked really good in that play, confident, nice interception. Didn't bite on the route. They were trying to get him to bite on the curl route. He didn't bite on it, jumped up, made a great play, ended the game, moved Texas on. Michael Tiafi has been really solid as well, 63 total tackles, 6 sacks for loss, 2 picks, 8 pass breakups, number 2 on the team. Jalen Gillebo has been solid as well, 54 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss for him, 1 sack. Malik Muhammad, 31 total tackles, 6 pass breakups, 1 tackle for loss, and then Jelani McDonald's been getting involved more, 27 total tackles, 8 tackle for loss, and an interception for him. Great unit. I think this is a really strong physical unit. They're getting a tough test here, obviously, against this passing attack that's shown some ability to light up the scoreboard as of late. I wonder who's going to cover Smith and if they have success there, but I do think this is a Texas team that can play better than a lot of people expected, and it's a good secondary.
They ended up allowing over 500 yards to ASU. They were on the field for 97 plays, almost 38 minutes of time of possession. That just can't happen if you want to win this game. Can't be on the field that much. And they gave up 10 of 24 on third down. That's a lot of third downs that ASU saw. Moving to the Ohio State defense, another reason why I thought this team would make a run was because I thought the defense was being overlooked. The defense really hasn't been bad at all this year, other than that first matchup of Oregon. They got their revenge today in a big way, where they didn't give up much in the air. Gabriel was playing from behind, ended up with 299 and 2 touchdowns. Had numerous opportunities for interceptions, though. Didn't really allow guys to really break loose until the game was kind of out of reach. They ended the day with 8 sacks. That's ridiculous. Everyone was eating, not just JT Tumalau and Jack Sawyer, but some of the other guys were getting involved too. Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, the 2 number 2s, were getting some pressure. Very impressive showing. Cody Simon, of course, at linebacker, had an elite day. This front four is phenomenal. They've proven that so far. Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton have been providing great interior pass rush. These guys were great in the game against Tennessee. They were great against Oregon here again, giving up negative 23 rushing yards. That's phenomenal. The most rushing yards that Oregon had by a single player was 14. Jordan James, he had an 11-yard run early in the first quarter. That was it. They completely stifled this team in all ways possible. And with how Texas just looked today running the football, Nick, they might be in for a negative yard showing as well.
They could be in for a tough day. This is defensive line for Ohio State that's playing on full cylinders and looking really good. Jack Sawyer, a phenomenal player who's leading this team in a lot of character and spirit. Really good for this team. 51 total tackles, 6 sacks for him, 1 pick, 2 pass breakups. Great numbers there. JT Tillamano has been really solid as well. 46 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Ty Hamilton, 45 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Tyreek Williams, 35, 6, and 2.5 for him, while Caden Curry and Keontae Jackson have been getting involved as of late. Curry, 3 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Jackson, 2 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. They're getting involved, playing better football as of late. Like what this defensive line can do. This looks to be a tough matchup for this Texas offense.
Now you look at the middle of their defense for the Buckeyes. Cody Simon again, he was the Rose Bowl MVP of 11 tackles, 3 of them for loss, had a PBU. Him and Sonny Styles have been tremendous. Styles made some good plays against the run. These guys are pretty solid against the pass as well. They might want to try and draw some one-on-one matchups with Styles, though, Nick. Texas loves to use their running backs out of the backfield, so maybe there's some vulnerabilities there. But these linebackers this year have not been phased all that much, and Simon's playing at an all-time high level.
This is a great linebacking unit led by Cody Simon, leads the team in tackles. Sonny Styles and him both have 80-plus tackles. Simon, 86, 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 6 pass breakups, while Styles, 81, 7, 4 sacks, and 4 pass breakups. Great numbers there. Really good unit. CJ Hicks has been okay at linebacker as well. 22 total tackles and 2 sacks for him. Like what this unit can do. Good leadership there.
Now you move to the secondary for Ohio State, a group that has also been just phenomenal in this playoff. And they were elite all year long. They've only given up 6 passing touchdowns. Coming to this game, they're only giving up 141 yards per game. These are some of the best numbers in the country by far. And again, the first matchup with Oregon was the only one that really was a blemish for them. It's going to be another tough challenge here. These guys have been so good in man, and they've been even better in zone. The top safety duo in the country, Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs, a big reason for that. Downs, he only had 3 tackles, but he also had 3 pass deflections. He was elite in coverage. This guy in zone was phenomenal as well. He does just such a good job of getting everyone set properly and making sure everyone is on the same page. Great communicator there. Jordan Hancock is a beast in the slot. And then these 2 corners, Davison Igbeson and Denzel Burke, have been really good. I like Davison against the run. Burke bounced back tremendously after a poor showing a few months ago in Eugene. This secondary is going to be hard to crack, Nick. No one's did it all year other than the Ducks. The Longhorns do have the prowess to get the job done here. But in this zone, with Ewers being, sporadic at times, can't make mistakes here against this secondary because they will make you pay. And again, no one has made them pay really often this year.
Secondary that's playing great football and is a really good unit. Caleb Downs obviously having a great season, an All-American season from him again. He's just a phenomenal player. 69 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, a pick, and 3 pass breakups. Lathan Ransom's been good. 62 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, a pick, and 2 pass breakups from him as well. Good numbers there. Denzel Burke really bounced back since that Oregon game where he looked disastrous in Eugene. He's playing really good football. 41 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups. Jordan Hancock's been really good as well in coverage, 34 total tackles. Him and Igbeson both have 34 total tackles, 6 pass breakups for Hancock's, 8 for Igbeson, and then Jermaine Matthews has been solid as well, 18 total tackles and 3 tackles for loss. Really pleased with the secondary, one of the best in the nation. We said that earlier in the year. In the preseason, this was one of the best in the nation. They had a really good resume throughout the regular season other than the trip to Eugene. This is a great unit, though, that's going to look up to stand the task. I think they can pick off Quinn Ewers once or twice here, really make him uncomfortable, and have a great day.
Looking at the tail of the tape, the team comparisons. Across the board for Ohio State, for the most part, defensive line, I think, is very even. Probably much deeper D-line for the Longhorns, but I think these pass rushers are a little bit better for Ohio State. And their interior also has some veterans that make great plays against the pass and the run. Well, I think the Horns definitely have a clear edge on the offensive line. Texas, of course, is a phenomenal roster, Nick. They're not too far behind in any of these respective categories at all, but the Buckeyes will still get the nod at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the Buckeyes get a nod in a lot of these categories. Makes a lot of sense for me. This is just a very dominant team. When you're comparing 2 really good teams like this, this is going to be close, but Ohio State seems to have the edge in a lot of different positions here. Makes a lot of sense for me. I think it's a fair comparison.
The final thoughts on the prediction. Keys to the game for Texas: start fast on offense. D-line needs to dominate. for the Buckeyes. Keep playing with that confidence and keep testing the horns downfield often. And a big thing about Ohio State that I kept hammering on is they're not going to let a poor offensive line ruin everything that's good about this team, and that's been the case so far. Well, they've been great. Even the offensive line's starting to come around, it seems. So I think Ohio State, third straight blowout is on the horizon. I'm putting a lot of stock into this team, but it hasn't missed yet, Nick. And I think everyone else is starting to be a believer now as well. The Michigan game, it's put behind you at this point, but this is probably the best D-line they've saw since Michigan, so it's totally possible they get obliterated up front, but their own defense is going to make some statements against an offense. It's just been shaky throughout the year. Can't run the ball against ASU, can't run it against Georgia. There's nothing to tell me they're going to run it here, and then Ewers again, if his sporadic plays. He's going to have to play like he did in that, the final couple minutes of the game against ASU. Is that possible? Certainly it is, but I think the Buckeyes are going to make things hard for him. In the secondary, they're going to get probably exposed again, and I think there's going to be a lot of clean pockets for Will Howard. Running the ball will be tough. This should be a fun game, though. On paper, it's a great matchup, but I think the Buckeyes are going to run away with this one, punch their ticket to the national title in Dallas.
This is a great matchup opportunity for Ohio State. They're going to punch their ticket as well. I think this team is just playing incredible football. They're really turned it around. It's been stunning a turnaround. I really am surprised this happened. I thought this team was dead and buried, but they woke up. They decided this is the time to compete. In the preseason, if you told me that Ohio State would be competing for national title, playing in the semifinals, it wouldn't have surprised me. I thought they were one of the better teams on paper in the preseason. But how the season went out, I'm stunned that we are here with the way that all that kind of shaken out, plus the loss to Michigan where they looked just lax in the latter part of the season. But now they're here. They're playing great football. They just ran through two good teams in Tennessee and Oregon, and I think there's no stopping them. Texas feels kind of fraudulent. They felt shaky at times throughout the season. They got away with murder against Arizona State. There were multiple times they tried to sell that game. 2 missed field goals late. There was a targeting call that potentially could have gone Arizona State's way that would have got them a game-winning field goal opportunity. All that, considered for me, I think this Texas team is just not a great team compared to Ohio State. Ohio State's a better team. They're playing with so much mojo right now. Ryan Day has really turned this thing around, as has Chip Kelly coaching the offense, plus defensive coordinator Jim Knowles is really coaching up a good season as well. This defense is firing on all cylinders. I think Ohio State's going to win this game. I wouldn't be surprised the score's wide like your margins suggest. This is a big opportunity for Ohio State to get a big win. I just don't put a lot of faith in Texas right now. Give me the Buckeyes here. This team is absolutely rolling.
Yeah, that's a good point. The 3 best teams they played, they lost to Georgia twice, looked horrid on offense. Defense didn't do all that great against Clemson, even though they were pretty sizable favorites. And then here against Arizona State, they started hot, and then they were cold pretty much the entire rest of the game, while their defense could not get off the field. So, like you said, I think for Texas certainly fraudulent. They've certainly escaped playing one of the weaker schedules, and then the toughest teams on there, they've not looked impressive against. Kind of like the Chiefs, it seems, where they just keep skating by, and eventually it's going to catch up to them.
Yeah, certainly it's going to be the luck's going to run out. I think the same is this for the Chiefs in the NFL. I do think the luck's going to run out for them as well in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think their luck is going to certainly expire, and I think Texas' luck is going to expire. They'll have a great fan presence. I certainly don't doubt that. Traveling up the road to Dallas, they'll have a great fan spot there. But Ohio State, they have a national fan base that travels well. Very good fan base, good presence there. This team just feels like a team of destiny. They're the odds-on favorite right now for me to win it all. They're just in the best spot, pending the result of Notre Dame and Georgia, which is not taken yet. That happened yet due to the tragedy that occurred in New Orleans prior to us recording this episode. But I like what Ohio State can do here. I think this team's in a great spot. I love the football they're playing right now. They look really good. I think they're going to win this game by a lot.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.